This video is going to be a little TMI Q&A, diving deep into things like intimacy and questions that I wish that I had had someone to answer when I was younger, or just trying to figure out marriage, dating, sex, all of that kind of thing. So the first question that I want to dive into is what to do if sex is painful. This is actually something that I have a lot of experience in. Sex was extremely painful for me first starting out with my husband, and I didn't know what to do about it because everyone just told me that I should just go to my gynecologist and there's obviously something physically wrong with me and they will fix it. But my gynecologist told me that there wasn't anything physically wrong with me and it couldn't be fixed because there wasn't anything wrong. So it took me trying to figure out what the heck was going on and then fix it. So the best advice that I can have for you guys in that situation is figure out, first of all, is there something physically wrong? Go to the gynecologist, see if there is anything. If she says there's not, then you have to figure out why it's painful. My issue was I could not get my body to relax when I was being intimate because I had so much built up, I guess, shame around sex because of the environment that I grew up in. I grew up in a very conservative Christian home that didn't talk about sex. I didn't hear about sex in school because I was homeschooled. I didn't hear about sex from my peer groups. I didn't hear about sex in church. No one was talking about sex other than in an extremely negative light. It was like, if you do this, you're going to hell. And that was the connection that I had, and there was nothing positive about it. So for me, I really struggled to let go of that shame. Even as I got married, it still was not something that my body would let me relax into. I was so incredibly tense that it was just painful. It was painful because my body wasn't relaxing because I had all of this built up shame around sex. So if that is you, firstly, I hear you, I understand. There's nothing wrong with you. You are not crazy. You're not bad at sex. Your partner is not bad at sex. It is just your body not relaxing, and you have to get to the point where you can get it to relax. And it takes a lot of work. It probably took a year and a half to like fully figure it out. Some practical tips are make sure that you are coming first. Make sure if lube is something you want to try, that you've tried that and see what works for you. I really love the Good Clean Love lube, but that's the only kind that I have found that doesn't leave a burning sensation for me, and it has really clean ingredients. And then also make sure that you're touching yourself like during sex. Like, get to know your body, get to know what feels good for you, and do that while you're having sex. Like, there is no reason that your clit cannot get some action during penetration, okay? Just putting that out there. Nobody talks about that. But it makes sex a lot more fun. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it makes sex a lot more fun. How do you keep your sex life interesting? Recently, I have grabbed onto a few things that have been keeping it more interesting and fun. And the first of those things is just putting on jazzy background fireplace, like ambiance videos. I don't know why, but I'm such a huge fan of that. Just like put that on in the background. It sets the mood. Light a candle. Just make it like just a little bit like elevated. Like, don't make it like a chore. Make it like something fun. And then also the jar. Let me show you. I came up with this idea to share on one of my Lemonade posts and I'm obsessed with it. So basically all of these little papers in here have different things that you can do in bed, whether they be foreplay or like positions or whatever you want. And whenever you are in the moment and you don't really like know what y'all want to do, you can pull out one of these cards and it will tell you what you get to do that night. Obviously, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it, but it just makes it fun. And for me personally, I am so bad at voicing what I want in bed, which is something I need to work on. But this makes it a lot easier because I can just be like, can we just pull out the jar? Because it's not like I don't want to do any of these things. It's just like deciding what I want. I struggle with that. This takes the struggle of choosing out of the equation, and it makes it fun because you guys get to like put whatever you want in here, and then you can like pull one together and see what you get to do that night. And it's a good fun game that you can add to the bedroom. And then also, I think something else to just really like spice up your love life is to just talk about it a lot. So just not only when you're like in bed or in the moment, bring up different like intimacies things throughout the day. Just talk about it. talk about what you guys want to explore together, talk about what's going good, what's not going good, just like talk about it often. And I think that that can just bring a lot more excitement into the bedroom and just make it like fun and interesting. So those are my tips for keeping it interesting. I also got a question about foreplay, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I am the worst at foreplay in the entire world. Like, Brandon tells me all the time that I have the least amount of game in the entire world, and that has been true my entire life. I've never been good at like flirting or foreplay or anything. I'm like a straight to the point kind of person. So my version of foreplay is pretty much just being like, do you want to have sex? And like, that's it. So I'm not the best person to ask this question, but some things that I would advise are to just like be really obvious when you're in the mood, but not obviously just come out and say it. You can. There's nothing wrong with coming out and just like being like, hey, do you want to have sex? Like, I think sometimes that can be kind of sexy. Be obvious in other ways too. So light a candle, set the mood with a video, with like a jazzy fireplace video. Like, be really like touchy and physical, you know, like when you're cuddling in bed, like scoot back a little bit, you know, just be really obvious about it, because something that I really struggle with is just like expecting Brandon to know when I'm in the mood instead of just like coming out and like being obvious about it without just saying, do you want to have sex? So be subtle, but like don't be too subtle, because sometimes it can be confusing when you're too subtle. That is my advice for foreplay, and like I said, I'm the worst at foreplay, so I don't know if I'm the best person to ask that advice, but that is what I do, and sometimes it works and sometimes I don't do that and I just come straight out and say it, which is okay too, but not always. You gotta keep it fun, you know? What to do if you aren't in the mood or if your libido is different from your partner's. So I think that this is definitely something that I struggled with a lot, especially as we were figuring out sex, because obviously sex was great for him, but it wasn't necessarily the best for me when I was still dealing with some of that like pain and shame. So definitely something that we struggled with, I wouldn't say a lot, but a bit towards the beginning of our marriage. And I think now, looking back, the advice that I would give myself back then, be really open about the fact that it's not them. If there is a reason that you're not wanting to do it with your partner because you're mad at them or you're upset with them for something, you need to communicate that. And if it's not something that's related to them, you need to communicate that too, because you don't want them to think, well, it's because you did this, or it's because I'm mad at you, or it's because of whatever associated with them. They need to know that it's because of something that's going on with you. So just communicate those things. Communication, communication, communication. How do you handle disagreements with your husband? We don't really get into that many disagreements, but like obviously every single couple does get into disagreements from time to time. And just like I was saying with the libido question, it is so important just to communicate whatever you're feeling, because I think towards the beginning of our marriage, I was really, really bad about communicating what I was feeling in the moment or what I was thinking. And the best way to resolve an argument is to just be really open and honest about how you are feeling and what's going on inside of you and why you are feeling those ways, and just to be open about that. The second that you air everything out, the argument is pretty much over. But the second that you stonewall and you give somebody the silent treatment, they don't know what's going on inside your head. They create a whole narrative inside of their head, and there's this fight going on that you don't even know that's going on, because they're putting words in your head and you're putting words in their head, and there's just no communication, and the argument doesn't end, and it just keeps coming up over and over again. But if you're actually open and honest about what you're thinking and what you're feeling, those arguments, those disagreements are gonna go away so much faster than if you stonewall and keep silent. So you have to just air those things out before they get to be big issues. Just air it out, say what you're thinking. If your partner really like loves and cares about you, whatever you're thinking and whatever you're feeling is not going to be something that is going to ruin your relationship. They want to support you, they want to know what's going on, and they don't if you don't communicate it. So just be open, be honest. How to trust your partner, especially if you have been cheated on in the past. I had a very, very crappy high school boyfriend, and it was not a good time. And I think that I did definitely have a lot of trust issues before that, but I can say that I have never had any kind of trust issues with Brandon whatsoever. I trust him literally completely, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, you have to choose someone who is actually trustworthy. If you choose to be with someone that is not trustworthy, that you constantly have doubts about because of their behavior, you're going to struggle and it's going to be incredibly hard to trust them. Get that out of the way. If you're dating someone that you do not trust for reasons that are on their side, you need to have a conversation about that and you need to figure out what to do. They need to support you and be a trustworthy human being, and if they're not being that, then I don't really know what to tell you because the relationship is going to be very, very challenging. So that is the first thing. The second thing, and this will help with the first thing, is if you are single right now, or if you're not married yet, or if you're, even if you are in a serious relationship, the best thing that you can do to start trusting another person is to get really solid on who you are as a person and be so confident in that you don't need another person to complete you. And after high school, after my crappy relationship, I spent 5 years just being single, and it was a 5-year period of me just like getting so solid on who I am. I actually had a couple of guys tell me that I was undateable. I think because they were a little bit intimidated by my just self-reliance. I'm a very self-reliant person, and I think that can be intimidating for guys sometimes. But I will tell you that going into my relationship with Brandon, I was just so confident in who I was. I knew, first of all, if there was anything that came up that was not great, I was more than comfortable in walking away from the relationship. And B, even to this day, I still feel like I am a complete human being without Brandon. I love him. He is amazing. He is my best friend. I love our relationship so much, but if something were to happen, I could walk away from the relationship and I would still be confident in who I am. And I think in high school, when I was in that relationship, it was just, I couldn't have trusted anyone at that point because I was so scared that I was going to lose that person and then therefore lose everything that I was, that I clung onto it so incredibly tightly. And that is where the trust issues come from. If that relationship is absolutely everything to you, you're going to have trust issues because you're not complete without that person. So get confident in who you are, start doing hobbies on your own, have friends outside of your relationship, spend time by yourself, get to know who you are, journal, do all of the things just to build up who you are, and you will start to be able to trust people so much more. So that kind of goes along with another question that I got from you guys, and that is, what relationships was I in prior to meeting my husband? So I mentioned my high school boyfriend. He was not the best, but he did ski on a ski team, and I got to spend so much time skiing on lake the summer that I dated him. And that is one thing that I will forever miss about dating him, because I love water skiing and I don't get to water ski nearly as much anymore. So do miss that. Don't really miss the relationship though, but we were both young and dumb, and in high school I was an awful girlfriend. Again, I didn't know who I was. I clung to him so incredibly tightly. It was very codependent. I don't really know if it was codependent, but whatever. It was not a good relationship. And I dated him for like a year and like a half almost. And then about like a year and a half later, I think, I started dating a guy that was in my best friend's wedding. And we met there and sparks flew. And then we started dating, and then I immediately moved to college, which was like 3 hours away from him. So our relationship did not last very long. It lasted all of like 3 months, I think, and we were long distance the entire time. I think I kissed him like twice, and that was it. So was not exactly the most hot and heavy relationship in the world. And then he called me and broke up with me, which was quite sad, and I was very upset about it. And then I moved on with my life, and then I was single for 5 years. I dated a little bit. Like, I went on one Tinder date, which that's a story for another time. That was probably one of the stupidest decisions I've ever made in my entire life. So if y'all want another TMI girls chat, I will share that in that one. So let me know. But it was a very, very stupid decision. Stupidest date I've ever been on. He wasn't a bad guy or anything, but I could have been murdered. And then I also went on like one blind date that was like a favor for a friend that was like an RA, and one of his residents like wanted to go on a blind date with somebody, and for some reason I said yes, and it was the most awkward date in the entire world because a bunch of my friends were like sitting in the coffee shop like watching us as we were on our date, and it was so awkward, and he was kind of awkward. I was probably kind of awkward then too. And then I had some like flings in college, but like nothing at all serious whatsoever. Just like, you know, some friends that I had. It was a good time. I was in college. I was living my life. I was being single, and it was great. And then I graduated from college, moved back to my hometown, got a job at my like previous job that I had all the way through college and high school, and my husband Brandon was working there, and he was a part of the friend group that I previously had been a part of, and we just like became friends. Neither of us expected to ever start dating, and then suddenly it was like, crap, I think we're dating. And then, you know, we dated for a while and got engaged, and now we're here. So that is the history of my relationships. So yeah, I dated one guy for like a year and a half, dated another guy for 3 years, was single for 5 years, and then met Brandon. And we've been together almost 5 years now. Do you and Brandon want kids? So I haven't talked about this question recently on here, apparently, but Brandon and I do not want kids at this point. Neither of us feel very strongly about having children, so we do not plan on ever having kids. If that is something that we like long-term decide to do, I think we would end up adopting, honestly, because I mean, I'm like pushing 30, like I'm 28 years old and the biological clock is ticking, so I don't know how much longer like kids would be super viable for us. Secondly, Brandon did get a vasectomy. Yeah, he got a vasectomy like a year into us being married, a little less than a year into us being married, just because I have never been on the pill. I have no desire to be on the pill. I would like to keep my hormones kind of the way they are. He definitely like does not want kids. I don't want kids. He has his own reasons for not wanting kids. And so he just decided to get a vasectomy, and it was just kind of the best decision for us. And they are reversible. I know that it's not like 100%. Like you can definitely reverse them, but there is a pretty high likelihood of a reversal working. And again, I do think that if we ever did decide to have children, I think adoption would be something that we would be open to. At this point, that is not like on the table. Like we do not want that. It's always an option. And I do think that there's like so many kids that needs homes in this world that I honestly feel kind of bad like bringing a kid into the world. I'm like 100% so supportive of anyone who does want to have kids. Like when I hear about like my friends or like other people that I just kind of know, like finding out that they're pregnant, like I get kind of emotional and I'm really happy for them. I love it for them, but that's just not something that I've ever felt called to. And everyone keeps telling me that I'm gonna eventually like something's gonna click and I'm gonna want kids suddenly, but it hasn't happened yet. It's just us for now. I do very much want to get another furry friend soon, but not while we're living in this house. So we will see, and I'll keep you guys updated on that. But no kids, not now, not in the future. Maybe adoption if we do ever change our mind. I know that this is not a normal video that I make on here, but hopefully it was interesting and entertaining for you guys, and maybe made you feel a little bit less alone in the world of intimacy in the bedroom. One of the reasons that I was able to finally let go of some of the shame surrounding sex for me is because of sex positive creators that I found on YouTube or elsewhere. So I just wanted to like be honest about like my experiences and answer some questions for you guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want me to do another one and get some more juicy details on some other various things, let me know and I will definitely do that for you guys. So with that, I'll see you guys in the next one.